This program has not been approved, licensed, or sponsored by any entity or person involved in creating or producing Star Wars The Force Awakens products or works. Welcome to Good Screenwriting. I'm Trevor Meyer, and today we're going to talk about screenwriting, how to write a screenplay as good as Star Wars The Force Awakens by Trevor Meyer. Yes, that's right. It's another product designed by me to teach you how to be a better screenwriter. Now, right off the bat, I got to tell you, if you don't like Star Wars The Force Awakens, don't waste your time, and don't waste my time. Just move on. It's okay. We don't all have to like the same things. It's okay. However, this movie is the third highest grossing movie of all time. It made over $2 billion at the box office and got really good reviews on RottenTomatoes.com. Now, did it win an Oscar for Best Picture? No, it didn't. Different kind of class. If you're looking for that, I recommend you go study some Oscar-winning films. And if that's what you're trying to achieve, that's great. That's not what I'm doing here. Yes, Star Wars The Force Awakens, 93% from the critics and 89% from the audience. So, I will say, every successful movie will have its share of critics. Actually, more than its share of critics. Because here's the thing. The vocal minority is so vocal and so loud that they seem to be equal. This seems to be like, some people like it, some people don't, and it's about 50-50. No, it's just that the people who don't like it are talking much louder and much more frequently than the people who do like it. Because people aren't like actively defending this movie. They don't have to. It succeeded on its own rights. So, some people would call this movie overrated. I actually think that that's a false term. I don't think overrated makes any sense because, by definition, if something is overrated, that means that it's rated very highly, and the people who think it's overrated are the minority who don't agree. So, that being said, if you don't like this movie, once again, you can just move on. Because right now I'm talking directly to the people who did appreciate this movie, even if they acknowledge its flaws, which I do. This is not a perfect movie. I understand that. Trust me, I understand. My goal was to focus on the positive aspects of it, the things that made it successful. So, when there are plot holes, I admit that. And I talk about it at length in this program. And in case you don't know, the way this program works is you can listen to it all by itself. It's just over 2 hours long. And you can listen to it on your iPod, your computer, your phone, if you have the ability to play iTunes on your phone. Because it will come as an MP3 file. Now, the other cool thing about it, though, if you have the time and if you have the resources, you can actually set up the movie on your home Blu-ray player or DVD player, watch it on the screen, turn your sound off on the screen, and play this MP3 file either in your headphones or on your speakers, and it will actually sync up with the film and act as an audio commentary. So, works completely fine on its own if you want to just listen to it for fun. That's actually how I did it. I actually recorded this program a few months ago, so I've had a while to let it settle, and I just listened to it fresh last night. And it is wildly entertaining as well as educational, because I do point out all of the plot holes in the movie. There are some things in this movie that make no sense. I'll give you that, all right? But some of the critics online have been criticizing it unfairly, I feel, because there are a lot of plot holes, I'll put plot holes in quotes there, that they point out that really aren't plot holes, that there are answers to those questions presented in the film, if not in the expanded universe. Now, I know, you shouldn't rely on the expanded universe to do the work for you, but a lot of the answers can be found in the actual film. For example, there's a lot of criticism about how Rey happens to be good at just about everything. And she's been labeled as a Mary Sue character. If you don't know what that is, don't worry. I don't think anyone else does either. People have been having endless debates online about this whole Mary Sue business. So I do address that in this audio program, whether or not she is a Mary Sue character and whether or not that actually even matters. We also talk about characters a lot. We talk about character development. We talk about character dynamics. We talk about introducing characters and giving screen time to various characters in order to develop sympathy and empathy with the various characters. And the really fun thing about this is that it's all improv. I didn't take any notes before I did this audio program. It's sort of like right now. I like the improv feel. I don't really do well with reading a script or doing notes or anything like that. I like to capture the spontaneity. And one of the benefits of that I didn't expect is that while I was watching the film and recording the program, because that's how it works, I'm watching the movie while I record this audio program, Screenwriting, How to Write a Screenplay as Good as Star Wars The Force Awakens, and I'll have realizations while I'm watching the movie and recording the program. So when I'm in the middle of the program, I'll be saying things like, oh my God, I never realized that before. That means this. And I go off on this really crazy rant on stuff that I just realized while watching the film that time. So you get to experience that for the first time, me having these realizations while I'm watching the movie. There are a lot of questions in this movie that don't get answered. And sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a mystery. Sometimes you're waiting for it to be resolved in the sequel, as we'll find out in The Last Jedi. As I'm recording this right now, The Last Jedi has not come out yet. So I haven't seen it. I don't know what's coming. I'm excited for it. And I feel that this is the right time to launch this program so that other people can benefit from this as well, as long as they're in the Star Wars mindset, you know? If you like Star Wars The Force Awakens and you're into screenwriting and you're inspired by this movie, and you're the type of screenwriter who doesn't just want to write art films or Oscar winners. If you actually want to write something that's financially successful and gets good reviews from both the critics and the audience, yeah, this is the kind of movie you should be looking at, honestly. After Avatar and Titanic, and I already did classes on those, so, you know, if you've already figured out how to write a screenplay as good as Avatar, how to write a screenplay as good as Titanic, this may be the next step. Or if you don't like those movies, go ahead and skip over them and go straight to Star Wars. If you're a Star Wars fan, come on. Who's not a Star Wars fan? Just kidding. I know a lot of people who don't like Star Wars, and I hate them. All right, so the other things I talk about in this program are dialogue. And I compare the dialogue in The Force Awakens to the dialogue in some of the prequels, for example, to illustrate exactly what the difference is and why it matters. Why the realistic dialogue matters and how it improves the situation, the realism, the characters, and audience engagement. I'll also get into the finer details of plot and where you start from the very beginning with your initial concept, your idea for a story, and how you flesh that out with the various characters, because a lot of these movies can get kind of messy. I'm not referring specifically to this movie, but there are movies, I don't know, like Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 2, X-Men The Last Stand, where they're just not, I'm not going to say too many characters. I'm going to say that there are so many subplots in such a short amount of time that they're forced to resort to bad writing. That's the point. It's not that it's inherently bad to have too many plot lines going on at the same time. It's that trying to squeeze them all into too short of a window forces you to take shortcuts and rely on bad writing to get out of those problems. I think Lord of the Rings is a great example of how having multiple characters and multiple plot lines can work if you have a 3-hour movie. All right? 3-hour movies, okay? So what I do is give you a method to simplify and streamline your story, even if you have a cast of, 10, 20, 30, 40 characters. How to streamline it, give everyone their moment in the spotlight, but still keep it focused and make it watchable. Too many characters is a myth. There's no such thing as too many characters. What the problem is too many subplots in too short a time. Okay, so we will address that issue. We're going to talk a little bit about world building and some of the questions that I have about how the New Republic works, where the Resistance came from, what the First Order is up to, all of that stuff. Now, this is going to have a lot of spoilers in it, so if you haven't seen The Force Awakens yet, first off, you're not in my market here. If you don't like The Force Awakens, if you haven't seen The Force Awakens, you shouldn't even be watching this video right now. So I'm sure you've seen it, because we're going to spoil the crap out of it. We're going to talk about this thing that I call the emotional roller coaster, and I can explain that real quickly. It's the idea that you can identify the 4 quarters of a film because emotionally and tonally they follow this sort of W-shaped line graph, okay? So things start out okay, then by the end of the first quarter, they're bad. By the midpoint, they're good. By the end of Act 2, things are terrible. And by the end of Act 3, things are great. It's about as good as it's going to get for those characters in this movie. So, first quarter, kind of a downer. Second quarter, looking up. Third quarter, you hit rock bottom. And fourth quarter, you go all the way up to the top and the good guys win. This is a pattern used by about 7 out of the top 10 highest grossing movies of all time, last time I checked. There are other patterns. You can have a tragic arc or a sort of bittersweet ending. That's not what this one does. That's not what a lot of films do. So I think this is the best model. It makes it the easiest for outlining and for scripting, because when you know that you have that change in trajectory at every major turning point, you can identify exactly where the 4 quarters of your script are, okay? And you know this if you've studied Sid Field's screenplay. It's Act 1, Act 2A, Act 2B, and Act 3. Why did they divide Act 2 into 2 parts? Because it's twice as long as the other 2 acts. If you're writing a 2-hour movie, which is a 120-page screenplay, you'll have 30 pages for Act 1, 60 pages for Act 2, and 30 pages for Act 3. The problem with that is that Act 2 is so long, it ends up being this big pile of characters and dialogue and theme and tone and just a big mess, unless you give it a little tent pole, if you will, to stick in the middle of it to hold it up, to support it. So that becomes the midpoint. Midpoint gives it a little bit more body, a little bit more structure, so that you can divide Act 2 into 2 parts that are split by a midpoint. And I define the midpoint as things take a turn for the worse. So if things are good, things turn to bad at the midpoint. If things are already bad, they get worse at the midpoint, okay? So it's definitely a turning point. And this does have a fairly strong turning point in it, The Force Awakens. It's not as strong as Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith has an amazing turning point where it's when, I'm pretty sure it's when Anakin chops off Mace Windu's arm. Because everything's downhill from that point. I think you build up to that, and you come down from that. All right? So everything leads up to the moment where Anakin chops off Mace Windu's arm, and everything goes downhill from there. That's a pretty strong midpoint. I mean, that's a strong midpoint scene, but also a strong midpoint moment where you can pause the movie and say, right there, that's where it happens. All right? Now, I think I've gotten way ahead of myself here. In case you don't know who I am, this is Trevor Meyer. I'm the host of Good Screenwriting, the YouTube show. I'm also the author of Screenwriting, a screenwriter's guide to mastering storycraft and writing a successful screenplay. And I've done audio programs on how to write a screenplay as good as Avatar and how to write a screenplay as good as Titanic. I've also written scripts for 10 independent films and produced 5 of them. Acted in them, directed them, edited them. I did all of it. And I experienced every element of the filmmaking process along the way. So I've got a little bit of practical knowledge in every part of it. So when I'm giving advice on writing dialogue for actors, for example, this is coming from a guy who wrote bad dialogue in a script and then had to read that bad dialogue out loud as an actor in my own movie. And I'm like, this sucks. I can't say this. This is not realistic at all. And I rewrote the dialogue to make it easier for me to perform. And that's really one of the big secrets to writing great dialogue. So the insight that it takes to know where, your dialogue is going, where your plot is going, where your story is going in the greater production of the film, that's what I'm bringing to the table here, okay? So I'm not just some guy who read a bunch of screenwriting books and I'm just like summarizing it for you here. No, I've actually done this stuff in real life, and I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've had some successes as well. So I've gathered a lot of practical knowledge, like practical screenwriting knowledge. And I'll be honest, I hate programs that are not practical, all right? I don't like it when I read something and I'm like, okay, now what? What do I do with this? Like, I can't use this. This is impossible. It sounds good on paper, but it just doesn't work for a real writer. That's why I'm trying to make this as useful as possible. Now, when it comes to screenwriting classes, for example, I've seen lots of classes out there that they charge thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars for a screenwriting course. This is not that. This is not, if you have thousands of dollars to throw at a screenwriting seminar, that's fantastic. More power to you. This is meant to be more affordable. It's meant to be more mainstream. Maybe if you're just getting started out, but you know what? Even the most experienced writers can learn from this and what The Force Awakens has to offer. So the point is, I've tried to make this as easy to acquire as possible. So it's not going to cost $1,000 or $500 or $250, not even close to that. If you buy this today, you can get it for the low price you see right below this video. And another thing that I'm really proud of is if you download this program today, I'll actually include a little bonus lesson called 7 Things You Can Learn from Star Wars The Force Awakens. And it's where I take this over 2-hour commentary and distill it down into a practical 7-step formula in about 20 minutes, all right? So the commentary is much more about getting into the mindset, all right? If you listen to the main program, you'll get into the headspace of what you need to know to write a screenplay like this. But if you get to the end of it and you're like, okay, that's great. I've got the right mindset. I know what to do and what not to do to write a screenplay as good as Star Wars The Force Awakens or even better. What do I do now? What's the next step? What's the next action step? How do I get there? That's where the bonus lesson comes in. All right, 7 Things You Can Learn from Star Wars The Force Awakens is a 7-step formula you can follow from beginning to end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps in chronological order that you can take today to make your screenwriting better and to take the next step toward becoming a successful screenwriter. Okay? Now, the other thing to note is that this does come with a 60-day money-back guarantee, okay? It's sold through ClickBank. For those of you who don't know, ClickBank is an online marketplace for digital products and other physical products. I'm not selling this out of my garage or my basement here. ClickBank is a reliable retailer. They process all the credit cards and all that stuff. And part of their policy and part of my policy is that if you are unsatisfied in any way with this program, you will get a full refund, no questions asked, okay? So if it doesn't launch you into a new level of success as a screenwriter, if you don't love it for its entertainment value, if you don't like the sound of my voice, if you don't experience any real growth as a screenwriter from this, I will give you your money back, guaranteed, for 60 days, okay? So really you got nothing to lose. I mean, if you wanted to, you could totally just download this, pay for it up front, and then say, you know what, it's not really for me. I want my money back. And I would do it, even if you had no good reason. I hope you don't do that, but you could. You could if you wanted to. All right? So the main program will get you into the mindset, heighten your senses, focus everything on the stuff you might not have noticed about the movie Star Wars The Force Awakens from a screenwriting standpoint. And then the bonus lesson, 7 things you can learn from Star Wars The Force Awakens, will crystallize it, will channel it, will focus it into a tangible 7-step formula that you can use to improve your screenwriting right now. Okay? So, once again, this program is available right now, today, at the price that you see right below this video. It can change at any time, and my other programs have varied in price from week to week. So, if you want to lock down the price you see right below this video, best bet, get it right now, because it could change at any time. It could go up at any time. And that's not just some crazy sales tactic I'm using. I really do change the price of my products all the time. So, if you want it, if it sounds good to you, if you're ready to take the next step and jump to the next level as a screenwriter, I think this is the next move for you, all right? Once again, if you're not into Star Wars The Force Awakens and you're just looking for excuses for this not to work, it's not going to work, okay? If you say, I hate The Force Awakens and I watched this movie and I don't like it and I listened to your audio program and it didn't make me a better screenwriter, don't waste your time and money, okay? This is for someone who's actually going to look for the positive in this. Someone who's looking for a solution. Someone who actually wants to make progress in their own writing. And you are going to have to do the work. I'll be honest, I'm not going to write your screenplay for you. And this program is not going to write your screenplay for you. And I can't guarantee that you're going to make any money at all from any screenplay that you write. That's on you, okay? You have to do the writing. You have to do the work. You can't hire someone to do your push-ups for you, as they say, okay? Sometimes you just got to get your hands dirty and get it done. So, are there any guarantees about how much money you'll make after you listen to this product? Absolutely not. I'm sorry. I can't do that because that's going to depend largely on what action you take after you listen to it, okay? So, what I can promise you is that I am going to do everything in my power to help you achieve your goals as a screenwriter, okay? I want you to succeed. I want you to take this information and use it to your advantage. I want you to write an amazing screenplay and sell it and make lots of money, okay? I want it to get adapted into a movie that makes lots of money and that gets great reviews from critics and audience. That's what I want for you. I truly want that for you. And I'm going to do everything I can to make that happen. But you got to meet me halfway, actually more than halfway. You have to do most of the work here, but I'm trying to help you, okay? I'm a coach here. Just think of me as your personal trainer, okay? I'm the personal trainer. I'm going to show up. I'm going to help you, but you got to do the work, okay? So, once again to recap, audio commentary. You can watch it with the film or you can listen to it by yourself without the film on your iPod, your computer, or your phone if it supports the MP3 file format. It's an instant download, so you can get it 30 seconds from now if you hit the download button. 60-day money-back guarantee for any reason whatsoever, okay? You can listen to this, pay for it, listen to it, and anytime in the next 60 days, ask for a refund for any reason whatsoever, okay? So you really got nothing to lose, okay? I'm putting all the risk on me here. I'm hoping you're not going to rip me off. I know you're a good person. You're not going to do that. But honestly, if you have a problem with this program and it's not everything you hoped it would be, it's okay. I'll give you a refund. Okay? So you have no reason not to act on this right now. Okay? It's a fun program. It's improv. It's exciting. It's kind of like the video you're listening to right now. Not to toot my own horn, but I am a very exciting person. Okay? So I'm looking forward to seeing your film in the theaters. I'm looking forward to you telling me your story about how you sold a screenplay and how I might have had a little bit to do with helping you get there, all right? So click the button or the link below to get your copy of Screenwriting, How to Write a Screenplay as Good as Star Wars The Force Awakens. This is Good Screenwriting, and I'm Trevor Meyer. See you next time.